Good morning, everybody. It's Maker Monday, and we're going to be showing you a really fun project today with some very simple processes. This is going to be something that you're going to be able to enjoy the bragging rights in a big way, and also be able to make some beautiful gifts and pictures to be able to enjoy in your own home. So, as always, our creative team has put some beautiful examples together for you. So let's look at these really quickly. So what we're going to be working with today are our gel inks. While we developed the gel inks to be used on fabric, you can actually use it to change the color of the fabric, which is what we did on this. This was just a muslin pillow that we used our red and our white ink mixed together to create a beautiful pink. This was a great way of showing how the gel inks are perfect because they are permanent on fabric. Here's another example of how we made an amazing little no drama llama onesie, which would be an adorable baby gift. But they're great on fabric, but also you can use the gel inks on paper. So what we want to show you today is not only can you make stationery, but you can make beautiful artwork that you can frame in your home and definitely enjoy the bragging rights. So, as you'll notice on these picture frames, we love taking frames that we rescue and restore. We actually use our rescue restore paint. So you just want to clean the frames, and then you can come back and use our paints, whether you want a full surface like this, or you can do more of an ombre effect, or you can do some washes to them with our chalk art. So when you look at these old picture frames and maybe they have ugly art in them, I want you to not look at the ugly art, but I want you to think about how you can rescue and restore that picture frame by creating a frame to be able to put the artwork that we're going to be doing like today. All right, so as always, to make it easy, we put these bundles together for you that are a great buy that allow you to be able to get all the stuff at one time. And we talk about, when we have to go into a craft store, it can be a bit overwhelming in the fact that you spend a lot of money getting a lot of things, but you don't have what you need to be able to complete your project. So we've put this bundle together for you, and it comes with an artist brush. It comes with your spreader. It also comes with 3 inks and a chalk art, which is our metallic. And then it comes with this adorable stencil. Of course, all of our stencils, if you're not familiar with them, are reusable. And have an adhesive back, and because the tri-mesh material that we have, it allows you to get a lot of beautiful detail in the artwork that you're going to be doing. And then we're going to include 2 sheets of watercolor paper that allows you to be able to create the look that we're showing you today. All right, so that's the bundle that we've put together for you. Now let's look at the artwork over here for just a second. You're going to notice something that's very much on trend. But it's this wash effect, and so it acts as a backdrop to the actual wording or quote that you're going to have. So it's a 2-part process, and it's also a layering process. The wash that you're going to be doing is the first thing, that's your first layer, and then the wording is the second that goes on top of the wash that you're going to be creating. The other thing I want you to notice is that you need to be able to have a border around it. This is the actual watercolor paper that you're going to be working on. But see how we set it on top of the foam core that you can put inside your picture frame once you take that mat out. You may have a mat, and you can take advantage of the mat. You can even paint mats with the Rescue Restore paint. But the main thing we want you to see today is being able to create maybe even an ombre effect with a wash. You can do a mono, which is mono meaning one, a one-color wash with the ink. But that's your first process, and then coming back on top of it with your quote makes for a really, really cute piece of art. The other thing is we have a lot of quotes, but we also have a lot of alphabet stencils, so you can write your own quotes, or maybe you can write a scripture verse, or you can write maybe a family saying that you have, and put them in all these frames all over a gallery wall, and it can create a gallery effect, which can be really adorable. And I know when I go in people's homes, I like seeing their family pictures. I like seeing and thinking about things that are very important to them. What sayings are important to them and why. So, I also love the fact, the diversity of the stencil that comes in this, because this is one of my favorites as far as your life is your story, write well and edit often. We had actually done a project where we painted some books and put this on the side of it. Also, let your light shine before others. We have this in a picture frame that's in my entry hall in our house, but also believe in your dreams. This would be a great t-shirt. This would be great on this, just as a reminder that you have dreams and what we need to do on a daily basis to try to make those dreams come true. All right, so what the first thing I'm going to do, and I realize you get 3 sheets of watercolor paper. I was incorrect. I had said 2, but you get 3. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to take some of your ink, and you're going to take a little bit of water. And because this example we had was pink, I'm going to be using our red ink. A lot of people may think, well, you're going to have white. When you thin this down considerably, it's going to turn into a pink. So I'm going to put just a little bit of water on this plastic plate. As far as percentages, you want to make sure that you have about 75% water to 25% ink. That way you see the amount of ink that you get in these containers is considerable, because it goes a long, long way when you're trying to create artwork like this. I love the fact that you're going to be getting these 2 blues, so if you wanted to, you could create a lighter blue and go darker, or vice versa, and that's a beautiful backdrop for another piece of art, and could go really pretty with this pink. All right, so I'm going to dip just a little bit of, let me make sure there's no size on this brush. So a lot of times when you get your brushes like this and they're new, there's a little bit of size in here, and it's like a starch that holds the artist brush intact. So just kind of hit it, make sure that it's not hard, and you can put a little water in it if you want to. So I'm going to take just a little bit of this ink out of here, like this, and mix it with the water that's going to make this wash. You see how very little ink you're going to need, and you want to be able to test it just a little bit before you put it on your watercolor paper. Like with samples, if I'm painting a piece of furniture, or if I'm practicing on something that I'm actually going to put on a board, practice, guys, before you do that. Don't do it on your piece and then say, oh, I've messed it up, now I don't have it. You could even work on a grocery sack if you wanted to. All right, so the other thing is, and we just had some gals in here a couple of weeks ago when we were doing this, and they saw when they did the second one what they learned from the first one. That's why I talk about sampling, is you don't want to have too much ink in this if you're going for this pink look. So if you're just now tuning in, let's take a look again at what we're working on. So we're showing how you can take our gel inks, which are formulated to be able to go on fabric, but how we can thin them down and how we can use them on paper with our stencils and create beautiful pieces of artwork that you'll be incredibly proud of. This may even be the spark of a business. You could literally sell these on your Etsy shops, at crafts fairs. We've got a lot of those that are going to be coming up starting in August, and people love giving gifts like this. You could even have backdrops. You could even demo this being done, show people how you're painting it, and then they could customize what quote that they wanted on there, and you could do that just for them. I love doing that at crafts fairs. All right, so we added, there again, as far as our percentage, we've got about 75% water, 25% ink. And I'm going to take just a little bit of this. I'm going to show you on this paper. I want you to test it first before you actually do it on your watercolor. Look how thin this is. See how thin that is? Look at the other thing that I'm doing. I'm laying my brush to the side like this. I'm literally laying it down so it's a washy effect, where I'm not working on it like this. You're going to have to lay it down, so how you hold your brush is more like this action. The other thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I leave a little border around it. So depending on what your border is going to be, whatever stencil, so let's pull this out. I'm going to kind of make a decision. Let's say I'm going to choose Your Life is Your Story, Write Well, Edit Often. So these lines that you see on our stencils are intended for you to be able to cut them. So I'm going to cut this in here. And I'm going to keep the sleeve that it came in, so that way I can put it back in there. All right, so there's an adhesive back on here that I'm not going to take off right now, but it lets you see that these are reusable and washable. But see, just seeing the placement of that on here about the size that I need it. So I'm going to have my wash just a little bit larger than this, and I'm going to have a border about this much. Does everybody see what I'm saying? All right. So if you're tuning in, if you're seeing us, tell us hello. Send us some hearts. Tell me where you're from. I love to be able to see where everybody's from. And definitely, when you do a project like this, share it with us and do hashtag enjoy the bragging rights and hashtag Maker Studio, so that way it's shared with everybody so we can see how you use this process. All right. So that kind of gives me an idea of what I want it to look like. And I'm going to take this away now. And using my water and my ink, I'm going to lay my brush aside like this, and it's a washing effect that I can come back in and fill it in if I want to. It's not going to be perfect. I'd prefer that you stay with the brush though. If you get a little bit darker, just kind of lift that up. You can dab it and work your way down. You will have some areas where you've kind of laid it down and lifted it back up, which is perfectly all right. And you can mix colors if you want to. But the main thing is make sure that it's a thin, washy effect, because if it gets too dark, you're not going to be happy with it, and it's not going to act as a backdrop. Let's take a look really quick while I'm working on this. Let's look at what our final result is, what we're going for. Let's take a look over here. See how washy it is? You want to make sure that you've got a border there. You can come back in and soften it just a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. The main thing is keeping your brush where it's moving, and you can come back in if you have some holidays, or if you have an area that you're not really happy with, you can fill it in. But just remember, let's come back over here. I'm almost finished because I've got a piece that's already done that I want to be able to show you. There's no perfection here. This is about continuing to kind of wash it and blend it. See how my brush is always going to be to the side, working my way back in it. I use very, very little ink on this. It's kind of a glazing effect. And then when it starts to dry and I've got areas where I've actually come back in and kind of blended, it looks beautiful. It doesn't bother me at all. It makes it feel more like a work of art. You can come back and kind of round out those edges where it doesn't feel as raw on the edge. It's going to be a little bit darker, but I love it that way. It's really pretty. All right, so we have one here that's already finished. Kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. You can make it a little bit thinner if you want to. And as you start to get the hang of it, you're going to go, okay, I'm loving this. And you start playing with it, and you can have a little bit darker. Maybe you can go from a lighter to a darker blue, or you can have your darker on the edges and blend it. So a lot of that's going to come from just practicing and experimenting with it. Oh, okay, yes, question.
Tricia asked, will the ink dry lighter or stay true to the applied color?
It's always going to dry a little bit lighter. So that way, as it's darker, when you're working on it like this, and it looks a little darker, it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Maybe not quite this much, but it will dry a little bit lighter. So a lot of that you can experiment. You've got to be able to experiment on some paper first to be able to get an idea. But I love these questions, guys. This is how we all learn from one another as far as asking questions. So love that. The other thing is, you're not going to get by without it being kind of puckered. That's part of the watercolor paper. That's part of the nature of it. And that you'll know that that was hand applied, that it wasn't just a printed process, that this was a hand done piece of art, which makes it that much more beautiful. All right, so now I'm going to take my stencil, and I've got the backing on it, which is part of protecting this because it's adhesive. And then just pull this apart. If you're not familiar with our stencils, you see they have an adhesive back like this, but they're actually a mesh. That's a mesh material. It's not open. It's a mesh that allows me to be able to get a lot of detail. And I'm just going to lay this down in the center of it. And there again, today we're working with our gel inks. They're made to be able to be used on fabrics like this, and they're permanent once you heat set them. But the other thing that you can use them on is they're beautiful to be able to use on paper and creating beautiful pieces of stationery like this. Of course, we used our monogram stencil with this. You can use, this is with one of our Paris stencils. Kind of the same process that we're talking about today as far as with our artwork is that you've got a first layer of whatever your background is, and then you can come back on top of it with whether it's a monogram or a quote or whatever. You know, you can also paint books and create a washed effect on them and put a quote on top of it. That's beautiful. When we talk about painting books, we actually paint them with our Rescue Restore paint. All right, so now we're going to be going to our chalk art. This is not ink. This is actually a chalk composition, but it's water-based. It has no VOCs. You don't have to worry about it. And you'll notice that in this bundle that we've put together for you, we have these spreaders, but it's too large for me to be able to work on this piece, so I've cut it just a little bit to be able to work with it. All right, so now I'm going to take out just a little bit of the chalk art with the edge of the spreader like this, and I'm going to apply it by pressing it through this mesh material onto where I did my ink wash. And this is where I talk about with people, if you're going to be doing crafts fairs, if you like selling your pieces, allow people to have the choice of what they want it to be. It empowers them. They can choose it, and then that way you might even say the Howard House, or you might do something, whether it's personalized when they got married. There's all kinds of stencils that we have that allows you to be able to customize them. All right, so look at this. This is easy peasy, guys. It goes on quickly, easily, using very little chalk art. I'm pushing it through that mesh material. I love this gold on top of the pink. We actually have copper. You can mix the gold and the copper together and make a beautiful rose gold. Look how much I have left over. I'm going to put that right back in my container, so that way I can use it again. A lot of times I use the edge of my spreader just to be able to pull that stencil up, and then that way I can pull that away, and I have a beautiful piece of art that I can come back and put inside my picture frame. So let's take a glance really quickly. This is the final project that we're showing you here today that was done with a wash effect with our inks and our gold chalk art. We've put a bundle together for you to be able to allow you to, you'll be getting 3 sheets of watercolor paper as well. So you can cut them up, you can make some stationery, you can make several pieces of art. You've got 3 different quotes, you've got 3 different pieces of paper that you can use over and over again, and you can even come back and use one of the stencils and the ink that you get and create a t-shirt for somebody. So there's tons of different projects that you can do with this bundle that we've put together for you today. But we thought it would be fun to be able to show you, not only can you create beautiful items, pillows, clothing, baby gifts, bags, totes, you can also create beautiful pieces of art that you get to enjoy the bragging rights. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye.